The Gemara says here on the top of Gimel and Beis, since dew is the whole year round, so why did Elisha take a shvur? Was it a chas v'shalom shvur sheker that the dew would not fall? Gemara says, Hachi kama, this is what Elisha said to Achav, afilu tal de bracha nami lo asi. The dew that will fall during the drought will not be a tal of bracha. In other words, a tal of bracha is something that causes the plants to grow. This will not cause any plants to grow. So the Gemara asks, "Lahadre lital de bracha." Why didn't God restore the tal of bracha? In other words, why didn't Hashem tell Elisha to tell Achav that there would be a restoration of the tal of bracha? Instead, as we saw in Amud Aleph, the pasuk indicates that tal lo ka'amar le. He says le cherel achav ve'etna matar al pnei, but doesn't mention tal. If the dew would be restored, lo minka, there's no heck. So Elisha, let's say he would have told Achav about the restoration of the dew of bracha, the dew of blessing. Well, Achav would have made fun of him. He's going to say, what are you talking about? We had tal the whole time. He wouldn't recognize and admit and acknowledge that there was a difference between tal that doesn't have a bracha and doesn't cause the plants to grow as opposed to tal of bracha. Now the Gemara asks, Ruchos minole delobi atzre. We said that mentioning Mashav Ruach during the course of the year is not obligatory because there's Ruach the whole year round. How do we know this? Rav Yeshua ben Levi is going to derive this conclusion from the pasuk Yom Kra, Ki be'arba ruchos hashamayim peirasti eschem ni'um Hashem. So this pasuk in Zechariah Novi, for like the four winds of the heaven I have spread you, meaning Klal Yisrael, says Hashem Maika Amalu. What is Hashem's trying to convey through the Navi in this particular Nevuah? If we assume that God is telling Israel, I have scattered you across the four corners of the earth. What does it mean, like arba? It should have said in four, meaning be'arba. I have spread you to the four corners of the earth. Elohachi kama. Kishem sheyef shaliolim below ruchos. Just like there's no point in time where the world could continue to exist without winds, kach yef shaliolim below Yisrael. So this was a nice compliment, a tiding, that the world itself depends upon the continued existence of Klal Yisrael. There can be no world. It would cease to exist if Klal Yisrael did not continue to exist. In any event, we see that the winds are absolutely critical. There's no way that the world can keep going without winds. And that has to do with the humidity, which would continue to beat down and make it impossible for anything to survive. And therefore, the winds are absolutely critical, essential. Yirmiyahu Hanavi says, Ko amar Hashem, im lo brisi yomam halayla, uko shamayim v'aretz lo samti. And the Gemara in Durham derives from this pasuk that the study of Torah, and according to one opinion, the mitzvah of Milah, is absolutely essential to the natural order of the universe. Now the Gemara quotes a statement of Rabbi Chanina. Amar Rabbi Chanina, Hilkoch b'yemos hachama, between Pesach and Shavuos, the summer months, Amar he should recite Mashiv Ruach. And why Mashiv Ruach when the Ruach comes down the whole year? Gemara says that since the Ruach comes down the whole year, Im Omar Mashiv Ruach Ein Machzirin Oso. No matter what time of the year it is, even during the summer months, if he mentions the Ruach, he doesn't have to repeat Shmona Esrei because it's meaningful to mention the Ruach. But in contrast, Omar Morid HaGeshem, if during the summer months he would mention the Geshem, Machzirin also, he's mamish changing the very essential Nusach HaBrachis, Meshanim Matbeh Shetovu Chachamim, B'Birchasam, because Geshem is only appropriate during the Yemos HaGeshem, not during the Yemos HaChama. In fact, Rashi adds another point over here that Geshem during the summer is a Siman Klala. So imagine after he finishes the bracha of Machayim Mesim, he reminds himself that he mentioned Geshem during the summer. He's going to have to recite the Shmona Esrei again. Goes back to the beginning of Shmona Esrei. And it would seem that Shema Kolenu here is not going to help him. Normally, if you forget something in Shmona Esrei, you might be able to add it into and integrate it into Shema Kolenu, but not when you're talking about a negative statement, which is against the Matbeh Bracha. He undermines the Matbeh Bracha by asking for, or by thanking Hashem for it. So again, Mashav Ruach is not critical, neither during the summer months and not even during the winter months. And therefore, if he reminds himself that he omitted the words Mashav Ruach during the winter months, he does not have to repeat Shmona Esrei. But Lo Amar Morid HaGoshen, Machzirin also. Geshem becomes an integral, essential part of the tefillah. Without it, you are not Yotzi Tefillah. You'll have to repeat Shmona Esrei, or if it's after the owner, you'll have to add it, Tefillas Tashlum. Here we have an interesting. No, I'm sorry. The machlok is going to be about Sheilus Kishon. Flow Od, we're back to Rabbi Chanina. El afilu Amar Mariv Mavir Haruach Umafriach Hatal. He praises God for removing the wind and removing the dew, making the dew fly away. Ein machzir also. Because again, what he says is sheker, because we know that the wind and the dew are the whole year round, but nevertheless, what he's saying is absolutely meaningless. It's not considered something that undermines the tefillah. Hana, we learned in the Brisa, the ovim uberuchos lo chivu chacham lahaskir. With regard to winds or clouds, there's no obligation to add that to the praise of God in Shmona Esrei. But if he wants to on his own and take the initiative, that he can do. Now, let me just mention the sheet of the Rosh. The Rosh says that if he finished, as we said before, Machayim Mesim, the entire bracha of Gvurus Keshavim, and he reminds himself that he left out Morid HaGoshen during the winter months, of course, he has to go back to the beginning of Shmona Esrei. However, if he reminds himself before he says the Chasimas HaBracha, meaning Machayim Mesim, then he could add it at that point, but not during Shema Kolei. Tana, we learned in the Brisa. Oh wait, so my time of Mishum to Lo Miatzrei. The Lo Miatzrei, let's go back to talk about Ruach and clouds. Vatani, Rav Yosef, we have a Brisa brought down by Rav Yosef. Yatzares HaShamayim, this is part of Kriyat Shema. from Parshas Vayischanan. God will restrain the heavens, mina avim umina ruchos. What this pasuk is referring to, that there won't be clouds and there won't be winds. Ata omer mina avim mina ruchos o eno ela mina motor. Maybe it means that God will restrain the rains from coming down, but there will be wind and there will be clouds. Kishu omer v'lo yeh matar. Later on in the pasuk, it says you won't have any matar omer hamani mekayim. What do I do with the pasuk? V'yatzares hashamayim. It means mina avim umina ruchos. We have a contradiction here to Rav Yosef because we see that it's not always the case that we'll have avim and ruchos. So the Gemara says kasha ruchos are ruchos, kasha avin are avin. On the one hand, we have a contradiction between the position that winds can never be held and a contradiction that the clouds will never be held, because this last brisa says that it could be possible that the winds or the clouds could be withheld. And that's what it means to Yatzaras HaShamayim. So the Gemara starts backwards to try to reconcile this. Avim lo kasha ha becharfei ha bi'afle. We can reconcile the contradiction regarding clouds. The brisa that says that clouds are never withheld, that's talking about early clouds that come before the rain. That will never be withheld. But bi'afle, when we're talking about in the other brisa, the clouds could be withheld. We're talking about late clouds, which follow the rain, and those might be withheld. Now, as far as mentioning clouds in our tefillos, since at least some of the clouds will never be withheld, therefore the brisa rules that there's no chiyuv to recite, to mention the clouds. Ruchos ha-ruchos l'kasha ha-beruach mitzuya, ha-beruach she'ena mitzuya. The brisa that winds will never be withheld, that's normal winds. But as far as unusual winds, extraordinary winds, very intense velocity winds, that will be withheld at some high intensity winds. Now again, it all comes back to what's absolutely essential for the continued existence of the world. There has to be winds in order for the world to continue to exist. As we mentioned before, otherwise the humidity would destroy everything that's alive. But that's only as far as normal velocity winds. But as far as the unusual winds are concerned, here it's not essential to the continued existence of the world, and therefore these winds might be removed. Now, we're curious to know what is the purpose in the biological universe of the post-rain clouds. However, again, with regard to a Ruach She'ena Mitzuya, the Gemara says, Ruach She'ena Mitzuya, Chazia Lebeidori? I mean, what do we gain from these extraordinary, high velocity winds? Let's say winds could separate the chaff from the grains, what we call winnowing. What's going to happen in a high velocity wind? Ruach She'ena Mitzuya, Chazi Lebeidori. maybe he's saying that those winds could actually be meaningful. Again, we're not talking about a tornado. That's going to blow all your grains out of the silo. But if, let's say, you have a high velocity wind relative to a normal wind, that could be meaningful for blowing away the chaff, separating it from the kernel. But we should be praying for those kinds of winds. And yet we established that even though these winds are not built into nature and they're not definite, but we're not going to pray. We're not obligated to pray or to mention them. So when it says Efshar Benafasa, we have a Napa and a Kava, different kinds of sieves, and we can accomplish the goal of winnowing without the wind. Tana, we learned in a Brisa. So again, these extraordinary winds are not essential. Ha'avim varuchos shnios limotar. In other words, they come in a close second. They are meaningful and helpful like motar. They're not essential like motar. Although we said ruach is essential. Mitra, we are talking about after the rains. The Nemer de Mal Yusahi, are you telling us that there's some advantage, we get some benefit from the wind that follows the rain? Vaksiv, we have a pasuk in Chumash in the Tochacha, Parshas Gavu, it says, Yiten Hashem es mitar artzecha avak v'yafa. Hashem will make the rain of your land dust and dirt. And on that pasuk, we have a comment, an elaboration of Amar Ulavi Temer Abuda Zika de Basar Mitra. This is wind that blows after the rains, and it's going to cause damage. Avak v'yafa. It's going to somehow, these winds are going to stir up the afar, and that's going to mess up your crop. So why are you telling me that post-rain is beneficial? Lo kasha, ha diasa nicha, ha diasa razia, ha demala avak, ha de lo mala avak. There's rain that falls nicha benichusa, gently, and then there's razia. Razia means with a force. The type of wind that is forceful raises the dust, and we're going to lose from that. That's going to damage the crop. But the lo mala avok, a gentle kind of dust, a gentle kind of rain that's not coming down in torrents, just 1 second, let's go over it again. Hadi asa nicha, one is referring, okay, so now we're going back to, we're splitting up between the rains and the winds. So as far as the rains are concerned, it depends whether they come out gently, and that's very beneficial, as opposed to rains that come down in torrents like forceful, which is very detrimental. And if we want to differentiate and categorize two types of winds, we have one wind, which is maleabak. It raises dust. That's very bad for the crops. And hadalo maleabak, but a wind which is gentle, that is beneficial. It doesn't raise the dust. The Omer Rabbi Yehuda Zika de Basa Mitra, but Mitra, so we're talking about winds, Zika, after the rains, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's necessary. It's like beneficial, like the rain itself. But Eva, and the same thing applies to Eva, the boss of Mitra, Kimitra. The clouds after a rainfall are beneficial, almost like the rainfall itself. Shimsha, the boss of Mitra, Kitrei Mitra. the most beneficial of them all is sunshine after the rainfall. L'me'ute mai, I mean, all these are beneficial. Apparently, there's something that Yud is implying that's not beneficial. And the Gemara says, "L'me'ute gilhi dil lelia." We want to exclude these flashes of light, which leila at night, and shivcha the bini karch, the sunlight that pierces through that area between one cloud and another. Now, Rashi explains that if the clouds are interspersed in a sunny, let's say, sky, and there are sunny patches, Rashi says it's compared to a head that's partially bald and partially covered with hair. So therefore, Shimshi de Beni Karchi, that's not beneficial. Omar Rav Hamaili Talga Lituri Bechamsha Mitri Liaro. Let's read the translation. Snow is beneficial to mountains equal to 5 rainfalls to the ground. That's how beneficial snow is to the mountains. Now, again, Rav is talking about mountains. I mean, snow is not something that is more beneficial to mountains than plains or valleys. Why is Rava, and we'll see how he derives it from a pasuk, so focused on the mountains? Perhaps talk about the fact that rain has to fall from the mountains, from the slope of the mountains. And in the case of snow, apparently snow is more beneficial than rain. I'm not sure why. Let me just read the note here. He says, mountains are watered primarily by snow as opposed to rain. Rain is of minimal benefit to mountains. He adds something. For it trickles down to the lower areas. The way I understand it, I'm not sure if this is what he means, is that whatever trees or grass, etc., any type of vegetation that grows on the mountain slopes, the rain it doesn't get seeped up into the ground to help the trees and so forth and so on, because the rain in a slope coming down the mountain will completely and very quickly fall down the mountain. But snow moves slowly, and therefore it gives the opportunity for the whatever vegetation is on the side of the mountains to absorb that liquid. Shenemar, and from whence do we derive it? From a pasuk in Eov. A lot about nature we find that in Eov. Kila sheleg yomar eve eretz v'geshem matar v'geshem b'tros. He says to the snow, be on the ground. He says to the shower of the rain, likewise be on the ground, and the shower of his mighty rains. Now, we have 5 different types of rains here in this pasuk. There's Geshem, Matar, there is Mitros, So I guess he's talking about Geshem is apparently a shower. Motor is rain. Mitros are rains. And since the word mitros is written in plural, that's counted as two. So all told, we have 5 manifestations of rain in this very same pasuk. So we can compare snow to these 5 categories of food. Yamarava, talga lature. Again, snow is beneficial to the mountains. Mitra razio lilone. Heavy rains has specifically beneficial impact on trees. Mitra nicha, and a gentle rain is beneficial to peri, to produce. Here on the top of Daf Dalid, urfila afila parztitza the tusik kola mahanule. So we're talking about an urfila, which is a light rain, and it is beneficial even to parditza de tuse, even to a seed that's tuse was underneath kola, a clod of earth. And when it rains lightly, the seed immediately begins to sprout and break through the clod of earth. My urpila, uru pile, awaken cracks. Uru means awaken, and the seed that's caught in the cracks, that's called pile. And the seed in the cracks, light rain sprouts the seeds in the cracks. And this is where we're going to stop for today on the top of Daf Dalid. We're up to V'Amar Rava. And we're going to talk about seeds beneath a clod of earth. Thank you very much.